Captain Alara Collins had never been one for easy missions. As a senior officer in the United Earth Forces, she had seen her fair share of combat, exploration, and diplomacy, but nothing had prepared her for the task ahead. A message had come through the military command center, a message that was clear but shrouded in mystery. The Valerics, an ancient alien race that had been an enigma to humanity for years, had requested a meeting, and not just any meeting, an invitation to join their queen on her flagship. The Valerics were known throughout the galaxy for their brutal warrior culture and sophisticated technology. They had conquered many worlds, leaving an indelible mark on the civilizations they encountered, but they had never shown any interest in humanity. Until now. The reason behind their sudden invitation remained unknown, but Alara was chosen to represent humanity. The stakes were high, and the opportunity to make history was something she couldn't ignore. As her ship, the Sovereign, approached the Valeric flagship, Alara gazed out the observation window. The vessel was like nothing she had ever seen before. It seemed to pulse with a living energy, its surface covered with intricate patterns that shifted and shimmered as though the ship was alive. The Valerics were known for their mastery of energy manipulation, and their ships were a testament to their advanced understanding of the universe. Alara had read the reports. Diplomacy with the Valerics had always been a delicate matter. The queen, known as Amara, was a figure of great power and mystery. She ruled with an iron fist, but there were whispers that her leadership was different from that of her predecessors. Many believed that the queen was searching for something, an ally, perhaps, or a way to prevent her empire from falling apart, but no one knew for sure. The ship's docking bay opened, and Alara felt the weight of the moment settle over her. This would not be like any diplomatic mission she had ever undertaken. She was about to meet a being whose reputation for power and authority had spread across the stars. The air inside the Valeric ship was thick with an unfamiliar energy, and Alara felt a sense of unease settle in her chest. She was led through the ship's corridors by an escort of Valeric soldiers, their presence commanding and silent. The walls around her glowed with a soft, ethereal light, casting long shadows as they moved. Despite the strange beauty of the ship, Alara couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, like she was walking through a world that didn't quite belong to her. They finally arrived at the command chamber, a vast room that seemed to stretch endlessly into the distance. The chamber was filled with an otherworldly hum, the sound of energy coursing through the walls and floor. At the far end of the room stood Queen Amara, her silhouette framed by the glowing light that surrounded her. She was adjusting her battle armor, a complex and intricate suit of alien technology that seemed to shift and change with every movement she made. Amara turned slowly, her eyes locking with Alara's. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The queen was tall, even by Valeric standards, and her presence was commanding. Her armor, a dark metallic design, reflected the light in strange ways, making it appear almost alive. As she took a step forward, Alara couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The queen was not just a ruler. She was a force of nature, and every inch of her being radiated power. "Careful, that part is delicate," Amara whispered, her voice smooth and melodic, yet carrying an unmistakable authority. She was adjusting a piece of her armor, and Alara instinctively took a step closer, not entirely sure why she was compelled to do so. Alara nodded, feeling the weight of Amara's gaze on her. "I understand," she replied, her voice steady despite the swirling uncertainty inside her. The moment felt strange, almost intimate. Here she was, standing before the ruler of an empire that spanned galaxies, and yet the queen's words had a personal, quiet weight to them. Amara studied her for a moment longer, and then she gestured for Alara to approach. "Come, we have much to discuss." As Alara walked toward the queen, she couldn't help but notice the way the Valeric warriors in the room watched her. Their eyes, filled with curiosity and suspicion, followed every step she took. She had been briefed on the Valerics' culture, how they respected strength, but also valued cunning and intelligence. This meeting was a test, she realized, not just for her, but for humanity as a whole. You must be wondering why I have invited you here, Amara said, her voice once again commanding Elara's full attention. The Valaric Empire is at a crossroads. We face enemies from within and from without. Our enemies grow stronger, and our empire, once mighty, now finds itself faltering. I have considered many options. Elara listened intently, but she didn't interrupt. She had no idea where this conversation was headed, but she understood that this was the moment that would determine the future of humanity's relationship with the Valarics. She needed to be careful with her words, just as Amara had been careful with hers. The slightest misstep could mean disaster. Amara paused, her eyes narrowing slightly. And then I heard of you. Of the humans. Your people, despite your relative youth in the galactic community, have proven to be more resilient than anyone anticipated. Your ability to adapt, to survive, has not gone unnoticed. Elara didn't know how to respond. She had heard about the Valarics' admiration for strength, but she had never expected to be praised for humanity's resilience. She was a soldier, not a diplomat, but she had trained for moments like this. She needed to keep the conversation going, to learn more about what the Queen wanted. What do you seek from us, Your Majesty? Elara asked, keeping her tone respectful but firm. Amara's gaze softened just slightly. I need an ally, someone who can help me turn the tide of this war, someone who understands the delicate balance between strength and strategy. You see, humanity possesses something we do not. You possess a certain adaptability, a willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. That is something I need. Elara didn't know whether to feel honored or wary. Was this some kind of manipulation? Or was Amara truly seeking an alliance? The Queen had hinted at many things, but nothing was clear yet. An alliance? Elara asked, raising an eyebrow. What would we offer? Amara smiled, though it was not a smile of kindness. Your people are still young, Captain, but you have already learned what the Valarics have forgotten. The value of adaptability, the value of unity, of understanding the finer details that shape the course of history. If we were to form an alliance, it would not be for the strength of our armies alone. It would be for something greater, a shared vision for the future. Elara couldn't help but be intrigued. Was it possible that the Queen truly saw humanity as more than just a pawn in some galactic game? Or was this simply the beginning of a complex political maneuver? What the... She didn't know, but she had been trained to find out. She would have to stay alert, watch her every move. As the conversation continued, Elara felt the strange pull. She had heard the stories, of course. The Valarics were brutal, merciless conquerors. But Amara was different. She was more than just a queen. She was a leader. And in that moment, Elara realized that this mission, this meeting, would be far more complicated than she had ever imagined. It was only then that Amara spoke again, her voice low and almost conspiratorial. There is something you must understand, Captain. This armor is not just for battle. It is a symbol of who we are. And when I say that part is delicate, I mean it in more ways than you can imagine. The weight of her words hung in the air, and Elara suddenly realized that this was not just about diplomacy. There was something more at play, something hidden beneath the surface, the future of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, would hinge on the decisions made in this room. Captain Elara Collins had never felt a sense of uncertainty as deep as the one settling over her now. The Valaric Queen, Amara, had made her intentions clear. An alliance. But the implications of that alliance, the promises and the dangers, were far from clear. Elara had trained for moments of conflict, of diplomacy, of navigating the delicate balance of power. Yet this mission was something else entirely. The Valerics had always been known for their might in battle, for their advanced technology, and for their sheer will to conquer. They had rarely, if ever, shown interest in forming alliances with others. But here, before Alara, stood Amara, unlike any leader Alara had encountered. There was an unmistakable strength in her presence, but also an air of vulnerability that was hard to ignore. Alara shifted in her seat, trying to maintain her composure, but it wasn't easy. Amara's eyes were fixed on her, studying her with a deep intensity that made Alara feel as though she were being measured, tested. The Queen's words lingered in the air. Your people possess a certain adaptability, a willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. Alara couldn't help but wonder if this was some kind of trick. It had to be. No empire, no queen, especially one as powerful as Amara, would offer such a delicate alliance without expecting something in return. She had seen enough in her career to know that even the most generous gestures were often fraught with hidden agendas. Why us? Alara asked finally, her voice steady but full of doubt. Why humanity? You could form alliances with any number of other species with more powerful forces than us. Amara smiled, but there was no warmth in it.
You misunderstand, Captain. Power is not what I seek. Not in the way you think. What I need is strength of heart.
The Valeric Empire has lost its way. We've become obsessed with conquest, with dominating others. But there's more to life than battle. I need your people's perspective, your ability to adapt, to think beyond the immediate victory.
Alara frowned. But what does that have to do with me? Amara stepped closer, her armored figure towering over Alara.
The gleaming surface of her battle gear seemed to hum with energy, alive with the force that radiated from the Queen. She spoke again, her voice softer now, almost a whisper, but filled with deep conviction. You see, Captain, the Valeric Empire is on the brink of collapse. My people are scattered, divided by factions, torn by civil war. Our strength is no longer enough to hold us together. There are those among us who seek to destroy what is left of the old empire and build something new, something dangerous. If we do not unite, if we do not evolve, we will fall, and the galaxy will feel the consequences. This wasn't just about diplomacy or trade deals. It was about survival. The Valerics were not just a powerful empire. They were a dying one. And Amara, the queen who stood before her, was trying to prevent it from crumbling. I don't understand, Alara said, her voice shaking slightly. Why come to us? Why not seek out another powerful empire, one with more resources or more influence? Amara's eyes darkened. Because, Captain, your people understand something that the Valerics have forgotten. You understand the value of unity, of working together, of using your minds as much as your strength. You do not just conquer, you create, you adapt. That is why I need you. That is why I need humanity. Alara was silent, the implications of Amara's words sinking in. She had always known that humanity was capable of incredible things, but she had never considered that their greatest strength was not their military power or technological advancements. It was their ability to change, to grow, to find new ways of solving problems.
What would you have us do?
Alara asked finally. What is this alliance really about?
Amara did not answer immediately.
Instead, she turned to a large holographic map that hovered in the center of the room. The map displayed vast star systems, some glowing brightly, others dark and empty. Alara could see the outlines of various empires, factions, and conflicts, each one a part of the larger galaxy.
The artifact? Amara said, her voice taking on a tone of urgency.
It is the key to everything. The Valeric Empire has long guarded it.
It is ancient, powerful, and it holds the secret to our survival. Alara's heart skipped a beat. She had heard rumors of such an artifact, an object of unimaginable power, capable of altering the balance of the galaxy, but she had never imagined that it was real.
What is it?
She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Amara looked back at her expression unreadable. It is a weapon, a relic from a time long before the Valerics rose to power. It has the ability to restore balance, to heal our fractured empire, or to destroy it once and for all. And I need you, Captain, to help me find it.
Elara felt the weight of the moment.
The Queen was offering her something no one had ever offered humanity before, a chance to wield a power that could shape the future of the galaxy. It was an offer that no one could refuse. But Elara knew that with great power came great risk. "Where is it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady.
It lies deep within Valeric space, Amara replied. It is hidden in a place that only a select few know of.
It is guarded by traps, puzzles, and enemies who would stop at nothing to ensure that it remains lost. But if we can find it, if we can unlock its secrets, we can restore the Valeric Empire.
We can prevent the destruction of everything we fought for. Elara knew that this mission would not be easy.
She had faced countless battles in her career, but none like this. This was not just a fight for survival. This was a fight for the future of an entire galaxy. But something in Amara's words rang true. The Valerics were a powerful race, but they had become trapped in their own strength, their own need for conquest. They had forgotten what it meant to be united, to fight for something greater than themselves. And humanity, with all its flaws and weaknesses, had a unique ability to understand that.
Why me?
Elara asked.
Why send me?
Why not one of your own warriors? Amara's eyes softened.
Because, Captain, you understand sacrifice. You understand the value of life and death, of victory and loss.
You understand the cost of war. My warriors are strong, but they are blinded by their own pride.
You are the one who can help me see what they cannot. Elara felt a strange mix of pride and apprehension.
She was being asked to lead a mission that could alter the course of the galaxy. It was a daunting task, one that no one could take lightly.
But she had never been one to back down from a challenge. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady now.
"I'll help you find the artifact."
But I need you to understand something, Queen Amara. We don't fight for power.
We fight for survival, and if we're going to do this, we do it together.
No more secrets, no more hidden agendas. Amara regarded her for a long moment as though weighing her words. Finally, she nodded.
I understand, Captain.
Together, we will find the artifact. Together, we will decide the future of the galaxy. And with that, the fragile alliance between humanity and the Valerics was born. The road ahead would be fraught with danger, deception, and impossible choices. But Elara knew one thing for certain. This was a mission that would define her and the future of humanity for generations to come. Elara stood on the bridge of the Sovereign, staring out into the vast expanse of Valeric space. The stars twinkled like distant diamonds, but there was nothing peaceful about the silence surrounding them. The journey ahead was one of uncertainty. She had agreed to help Queen Amara find the legendary artifact, the key to the future of the Valeric Empire. But in her heart, Elara knew the risks. This mission wasn't just about finding a piece of lost history. It was about shaping the fate of entire civilizations. Her mind raced with questions. What if the artifact was more than they could handle? What if it didn't work the way Amara believed it would? Elara had been trained to follow orders, to lead in battle. But this mission felt different. There were no clear enemies to face, no immediate dangers she could see. Instead, they were going after a legend, a relic that could either save or destroy them.
"Captain," a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Lieutenant Maris, the Sovereign's second-in-command.
He approached her with the kind of careful respect that always accompanied tense situations. "We're approaching the coordinates."
The Valeric fleet is standing by. Everything's in position.
Elara nodded, turning to face him. Maris had been with her through many missions. and she trusted him as much as anyone. Good.
Keep the ship on alert. We don't know what we're walking into, and I don't want any surprises.
Yes, Captain, Maris replied, his expression serious as he returned to his post. Elara took one last glance out the window, then turned and walked toward the command center.
The bridge was quiet. The crew focused on their duties. They had been briefed on the mission's importance, but no one could truly grasp the gravity of the situation. Not yet. Only Elara and Amara understood the full scope of what they were trying to do. Amara stood at the center of the command room, her presence commanding the attention of everyone around her. Her battle armor gleamed in the soft light, a symbol of the Queen's power and authority. She had been silent for most of the journey, but now, as the coordinates drew near, she spoke. "We are about to enter a region of space that is not only dangerous, but sacred to my people," Amara said, her voice calm but firm. "The artifact lies hidden in an ancient ruin, a place that only a few in our empire know of. We must be prepared for anything."
Elara stepped forward, her mind focused.
"What kind of dangers are we talking about?" Amara's gaze shifted, her expression hardening. "The ruins are protected by a series of trials, tests meant to keep out those who are unworthy. The Valerics have guarded this place for centuries. It was built by our ancestors, and the artifact is tied to the very essence of our power. It is not just a weapon, it is a reminder of what we have lost." Elara met her gaze. "And if we fail these trials, if we fail," Amara said softly, "we may never leave." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their meaning. Elara knew that the Valeric Queen was not one to make empty threats, and the seriousness in her eyes told Elara that this mission was more than a simple search for an artifact. It was a test of survival. The Sovereign entered the dangerous space surrounding the ruins. The stars grew dimmer, the light from distant suns barely reaching them as they approached the coordinates. The sensors began to pick up strange signals, flickers of energy that couldn't be explained by any known technology. It was as though the very fabric of space around them was shifting, reacting to their presence. Elara's pulse quickened. "Steady," she said to her crew. "We don't know what's ahead, but we can't afford to make any mistakes." As they approached the ruins' location, a strange feeling settled over Elara. It wasn't fear, it was something more primal, a deep sense of being watched. She felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. It was as though something ancient and powerful was keeping track of their every move. Amara stood beside her, sensing Elara's discomfort.
You feel it, don't you? She asked, her voice low.
Elara nodded. "Something's not right." Amara's lips curled into a grim smile.
It's the trials, the artifact's guardians.
They are watching. The ship entered a dense nebula, its sensors scrambling as the crew struggled to maintain control. The Sovereign shuddered as they pushed through the thick cloud of particles. It felt as though the ship was being tested just as they were. Elara could feel the strain in the air, the uncertainty of what lay beyond. Every passing second felt like a step closer to something they might not be able to escape. Suddenly, the ship jolted as if caught in the grip of an unseen hand. Red lights flashed across the bridge, and alarms blared in Elara's ears.
"Report!" she shouted. "We've entered a gravitational anomaly," Maris called out. "We're being pulled towards something! There's no way to break free!"
Elara's heart raced as she looked at the view screen. A massive structure appeared before them, a colossal ruin emerging from the swirling nebula. It was as if the ancient structure had been waiting for them, lying in wait for centuries. Towering spires of stone and metal reached toward the sky, their surfaces covered in strange, glowing symbols. This was no ordinary ruin. It was a place of power, a place where time itself seemed to stand still.
"Elara," Amara's voice broke through the chaos. "Prepare yourself."
"We've arrived." The ship lurched again, but this time it wasn't just gravity pulling them in. It was something else, something that felt almost alive. Elara gripped the console, her knuckles white. "Brace for impact!" she ordered. The Sovereign slammed into the surface of the ruin with a bone-jarring force. Elara was thrown forward, but she quickly regained her balance, her instincts kicking in. The crew was already preparing to leave the ship, to face whatever awaited them on the other side. Amara was the first to move. She stepped into the airlock, her battle armor gleaming as she activated the suit's systems. "Stay close," she instructed Elara. "And remember, the trials are not just physical, they are psychological. Prepare yourself for what you might see." Elara nodded, her breath steady but her mind racing. She had faced many challenges in her life, but this was different. The artifact was more than just an object. It was a key to the Valeric Empire's future, and perhaps the future of humanity as well. The airlock opened and the team stepped onto the surface of the ruin. The ground beneath their feet was solid, but it hummed with energy, as if the very stones were alive. The structures that surrounded them were immense, each one a towering monolith, etched with strange markings that Elara couldn't decipher. Amara led the way, her steps confident as she moved toward the entrance of the central structure. "This is it," she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "The trials begin here." Elara took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. As they approached the entrance, the air seemed to grow colder, and the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. A low, resonating hum filled the air, and the ground beneath their feet trembled. The trials were about to begin, and they would have to face whatever horrors awaited them. Together, the entrance to the ancient structure loomed before them like a massive mouth waiting to swallow them whole. The air was thick with energy, and Elara could feel the ground beneath her vibrate. Her heart raced as they approached, but she refused to let fear take control. They had come too far, and there was no turning back now. Amara led the way, her armor gleaming in the dim light of the ruin. Every step she took was deliberate, her movements calm, as if she had been here before, though Elara knew that wasn't the case. The Valeric Queen had never mentioned stepping foot inside these ancient halls. But it was clear that she had done her research. She was ready for whatever lay ahead. Elara could only hope she was as prepared. As they crossed the threshold, the entrance slammed shut behind them with a resounding thud. Elara turned sharply, instinctively reaching for her weapon, but Amara held up a hand to stop her. The air was heavy with silence, as if the very ruin were holding its breath. "Stay alert," Amara whispered, her voice barely audible over the oppressive hum that seemed to fill the air. "The trials will test more than just our strength." The group moved deeper into the ruin, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. The walls around them were covered in ancient carvings, intricate designs that seemed to move and shift with every step they took. It was as though the ruin itself was alive, watching them, waiting to see if they were worthy of what lay ahead. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake. Elara stumbled, her hand reaching out to steady herself against the wall. The carvings on the stone flickered to life, glowing faintly in the dim light. The hum grew louder, vibrating through her body, until she thought her bones might shatter from the pressure.
What's happening?
Elara asked, her voice tense. Amara's eyes narrowed. The first trial has begun.
Before Elara could ask what that meant, the floor in front of them cracked open with a loud, grinding sound.
A massive stone door rose from the ground, revealing a passageway beyond. The door was adorned with more glowing symbols, and Elara could feel a strange pull coming from the darkness beyond.
"Stay close," Amara said again, her voice firm but quiet. "This is where the real challenge begins." The group entered the passageway, their footsteps echoing even more loudly now.
The corridor seemed to stretch on forever, the walls narrowing as they walked deeper into the structure. The glow from the walls seemed to fade, and the air grew colder. The sense of being watched intensified. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted again, and the passageway ahead collapsed. A deep chasm now separated them from the rest of the path. Across the chasm, Elara could see another door, similar to the one they had just passed through, but it was far out of reach. There was no bridge, no way to cross, only an endless fall into darkness.
How do we cross? Elara asked, her voice filled with frustration.
Amara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she moved toward the edge of the chasm, staring down into the abyss. Her face was hard, her expression unreadable. After a moment, she turned back to Elara and the others. "This is the first trial," she said. "The trial of faith. We must believe in our ability to overcome the impossible." Elara stared at the chasm, unsure of what that meant. She had faced battles where the odds seemed insurmountable, but this was different. The ground beneath them was unstable, and the distance between them and the other side was vast. There was no obvious way forward, no clear solution. And yet, Amara was right. This was a trial. They had to find a way across.
Believe in what? Elara asked, still not understanding. Amara stepped closer to the edge of the chasm, her eyes focused on the far side.
She raised her hand, and for a moment, the glow from her armor intensified. The symbols on the walls flickered and pulsed with energy, as though responding to her movements. Then, with a swift motion, she stepped forward into the void. Elara gasped, instinctively reaching out to stop her, but it was too late. The queen disappeared into the darkness below. "Amara!" Elara shouted, her voice filled with panic. But then, just as quickly, Amara reappeared on the other side of the chasm, standing tall and unscathed. She turned to face Elara and the others, her eyes filled with calm determination. "Believe," Amara said simply, her voice carrying across the distance. "You must trust yourself, and trust that the path will reveal itself when the time is right." Elara stared at the queen, still trying to process what she had just witnessed. There had been no bridge, no apparent way to cross. But Amara had somehow crossed the gap, without hesitation, without fear. It was as though the queen had known that the trial would reveal a way forward, that the solution would present itself in time. The rest of the group stood silently, unsure of how to proceed. Elara looked at the chasm again, the darkness below now seeming less intimidating. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. If Amara could do it, then so could she. Without a word, Elara took a step forward. She focused on the far side of the chasm, just as Amara had. The ground beneath her feet trembled, and for a moment she felt as though she might fall. But then, just as she began to lose her balance, a small platform of energy appeared beneath her feet, steadying her. Elara took another step, and the platform followed her, stretching across the gap. She looked up to see Amara watching her, a small smile on the queen's face. It was the first time Elara had seen her show any hint of warmth, and it gave her the strength to keep moving forward. One by one, the rest of the team followed. Each of them found their own way across the chasm, their steps guided by the mysterious energy that seemed to respond to their belief in themselves. They crossed the gap without hesitation, their fears dissolving with each step. When the last of them had reached the other side, Elara looked back at the chasm, now a distant memory. It had seemed impossible at first, but now it felt like just another challenge they had overcome. But the trials were far from over. The passageway ahead began to glow once more, the symbols on the walls lighting up with new intensity. The air grew thicker, charged with a powerful energy that hummed in the air around them. The second trial was already beginning. Amara turned to face them, her expression more serious than ever. "The second trial," she said, her voice filled with the weight of the moment. "The trial of strength.
We must prove that we are worthy of the artifact. It will test our minds and our bodies."
Elara nodded, her resolve hardening. The first trial had been about belief, about trusting in the unknown. But this second trial would be different. She could feel it in the air. This trial would be physical. It would test their endurance, their strength, and their ability to fight when there was no clear enemy. As they moved forward into the next chamber, Elara felt a strange sense of anticipation building in her chest. Whatever lay ahead, she knew that she had to face it. There was no turning back now. The artifact was within reach. They just had to survive the trials that guarded it. And she would do whatever it took to help Amara and the Velarics find it.